hey, thanks for taking time out of your extremely busy day and your Playboy lobbyist lifestyle.
Hey, we got to hurry up. Barrett's helicopter's waiting outside.
Have we started yet?
I'm Arizona Family political editor Dennis Welch.
Dennis, fake news Welch. Try to tell the truth.
And this is the Politics Unplugged podcast.
Dennis, if you have a problem with substance abuse, I am more than willing to talk to you anytime you need.
Welcome to the Politics Unplugged podcast edition. Today, I am happy to say that I'm joined by Tony Cani, and I guess I'm pretty happy to say that Barrett Marson is joining us here today. Barrett, how the hell are you?
You know, Dennis, thank you for having me on the podcast.
Besides being hungry, I hear you're hungry.
You know, here's the problem, Dennis. You know, back in the day, you go in the green room, there's a fruit basket and everything. You know, it's great. Here I come on your podcast at lunchtime. No pizza.
Yeah.
All I got is a small bottle of water. You guys can't even get like the full 14-ounce, 12-ounce bottles. It's like the 4 ounces. It's barely enough to wet my whistle. And, you know, and you expect me to be funny, to increase listenership.
Well,
and
good
yet
news.
There's no pizza.
Good news, he's not going to be funny.
There's no,
funny so far.
There's no apple baskets. There's no peaches. There's no pizza. Nothing. But you know, here I am.
But hey, you know, like that's what you get when you're late. There was
literally 2 minutes.
There
late.
was pizza here.
Yeah,
a big,
great.
beautiful pizza. Some people say the best pizza.
You know, Spinato's is close by.
It was here, but when you were gone, like we gave it away.
Yeah, well,
you can ask Colin about that. It's a big, beautiful pizza.
Okay.
It was beautiful.
Yeah, some say the best. Some say the best.
Some say the best. Dennis, what the hell's going on this week?
I don't know. You
What
tell
are we
me.
here to talk
What the hell are we
about?
talking about? I don't.
You know what? I think we should do a show on the best pizza for when your viewers or listeners go to New York City. I mean, we got Joe's, we got Bleecker Street Pizza,
He's
we
got
got
pizza on the brain.
John's Pizza. We got to talk about that because that's, I think, what your listeners, when they go to New York, that's what they want to know.
Yeah, that's exactly what they want to know.
Yeah, this is a travel show for Barrett.
Yeah, I know pizza.
I'm beginning to think it's a lot like another New York show, Seinfeld. This podcast edition is a show about nothing at this point. Now let's get into it, man. There's a big political breakup this week.
Wow, what a shock.
Maybe
what a surprise.
You know, I'm hearing Donald Trump, Elon Musk, not buddies anymore.
You know, I really do believe that the only person who didn't see this coming was Elon Musk, and that I think everyone was like, you know, I saw this clip of Chris Christie from December, ages ago, of course, talking about, you know, eventually there will be the falling out because everybody has the falling out with Donald Trump. And I just think it was Elon Musk was the only person he thought he was above that, and he was so needed. And I think it's hard to realize Donald Trump doesn't need you. He doesn't need anybody. When he needs you, he gets what he wants from you, and then he discards you. And Elon Musk is learning that the hard way. What I like to see is that Elon isn't backing down. I mean, everyone else that Donald Trump has fired or, you know, sent off the island, you know, they haven't really been able to legitimately or effectively, I should say, fight back.
Well,
Elon Musk
need to,
does.
it's because they need to stay in good graces,
Absolutely,
so that they can be pardoned for whatever crimes they committed
Well,
on behalf of Donald Trump.
But you know, and here you have Elon Musk, who, you know, all right, so 3 days ago he's worth $420 billion. Today he's only worth $390 billion. I mean, he's not buying a new Tesla because he
Well, Trump is giving his back.
Right. Trump is trying to
the latest was we tape on Friday is that Trump was so upset he's giving his Tesla back.
Well, yeah. Well, you know what? Hopefully he buys a Lucid. I mean, come on.
Yeah,
buy an Arizona
hopefully
product.
he finds a buyer for the Tesla. I'm hearing the resale market on those things is not great.
Well, and those idiots keep driving it around the White House. It's probably got a lot of dings and, you know.
Well, hey, let's back up a little bit. I mean, this all started because Elon Musk went after Donald Trump's big, beautiful bill, saying it was a big pork-filled bill, and it was I think he used the word abomination.
Well, the hard part is, this is, you know, Elon Musk is one of these guys that maybe hasn't been involved in politics for very long. And for those of us who've been involved for a long time, we know that there's one universal truth, is that Republicans really care about the deficit only when there's a Democratic president.
And vice versa.
That's
Democrats.
the only time they really, really care
No,
about
Democrats never care about the deficit.
Democrats aren't arguing. The argument right now that Democrats are making about this bill is about the fact that like 350,000 Arizonans will be thrown off healthcare.
Sure.
that's the big push that we're making. But on this, I think he's like, what do you, wait a minute. I spent all my money talking about the deficit and now we're in the debt.
Yeah.
What? You're going to raise the debt?
I mean, that is a problem in that, the Congressional Budget Office, which has maybe not a perfect history, but even if they're off 20 or 30%, it says it's going to explode the deficit by a couple of $1 trillion.
Yeah.
And, when you start taking money out of the federal government and you increase the spending, what happens is your deficit spending does go up. So I do think whether the CBO is exactly on the mark or maybe misses the mark by a small amount, this will increase the deficit. And I do think Republicans need to be cognizant of that. And, I think what Elon Musk attempted to do with Doge was a worthy effort. He just went about it in an incredibly haphazard, reckless way. And unfortunately, he has set the Doge effort back by, fire first, ask what they did later.
And it seems like the only, that Elon doged himself. You brought up how he lost billions of dollars throughout this whole thing, while Trump has been reported he's making billions of dollars on things like cryptocurrency and things like
Look,
that.
Dennis,
So,
you're one of the highest paid news reporters, and rightly so, in the Valley.
Sure.
So $1 billion here and $1 billion there doesn't mean anything to people like you. But
the booming business of television news.
Yeah. But I had some hope for Doge that it would find some of the true waste, fraud, and abuse. Air traffic controllers are not waste, fraud, and abuse, right? And even
Forecasting hurricanes, cancer research,
right.
these things are not
that stuff
fraud,
is
waste, and
not
abuse.
waste, fraud, and abuse. We could argue whether some of the things like USAID or some of these other places that have, or even quite frankly, Voice of America, whether that stuff is still needed. But to just wholesale go in and start firing thousands of people and then learning what they actually do in government later is not the way to do it.
yeah, but how that make this make sense? I mean, Tony,
There's no way. There's no way to do that.
How did we go from criticizing a bill, Elon Musk criticizing the bill, to Elon Musk, tweeting out that, or Xing out, or posting that Donald Trump is in the Epstein files? Donald Trump responding by saying, "I'm going to take away, your government contracts, and oh, by the way, we might deport you." I mean, make it make sense. How the hell did we go from criticizing a bill to this?
Well, I mean, it's just open corruption. I mean, at the best case scenario, what Donald Trump is saying is the whole reason he was doing this was because he is corrupt, right? Saying and also because he knew I would give him what he wanted, right? I mean, this breakup was bound to happen because of their egos, because of all that stuff. And who knows what else is going on behind the scenes. There's been all kinds of reporting about, Musk getting in, arguments and altercations with people in the cabinet, crap like that, right? But what this is that this is an administration that is transactional. They are out there making money for themselves with the coin stuff. People know that if they give money at to one of his ventures that you might get a pardon. And this is the blow up afterwards of people who've been playing in that world, all of a sudden, maybe not getting what they want or whatever. And now Trump is just making stuff up and saying oh, Musk did this because we took away his electric car mandate, which is something that Elon had actually argued to get rid of in the past. And so it's crazy. And I guess the other thing to say is you can't put logic on the inner workings of either of these people's minds.
But Dennis, what I think happened is each of these two people, Donald Trump and Elon Musk, understand and believe that shitposting is, and this is a podcast, so I can say shitposting on your little TV show.
Don't celebrate it.
Yeah, on your TV show, I probably can't say that, but on here I can say it. Shitposting is the most important thing. The clicks, the attention that it gets. And let's face it, if you turned on CNN yesterday, the world had ended because of this. Nothing else was happening except for this. And they are getting the attention they both crave not because they're talking about policy, not because they're talking about, how a way forward, but because they're talking about the Epstein files and, and corruption and, again, they're, pardon the repeat of this, shit posting about each other. And that is what gets people into this. And both of them know how to capture our attention. And that's their goal. Their goal isn't to do good things. It's to capture attention.
Do you think Donald Trump has met his match then when it comes to the social kind of media thing? Because I've never seen anybody able to fire back at Trump quite like this.
Well, I mean, it helps when you own a
own
giant social media platform that has absolutely the algorithm's been twisted
Yes.
to sort of help Trump get the word out and do all these kinds of things. And so, yeah, I think he met his match in the fact that this is a crazy person who's now in an argument with another crazy person with a lot of money, and he's going to maybe spend his money, to make this fight go on. And all of a sudden Trump's like, I'm not going to talk to that guy. He's on drugs. You just figure this out now?
I know.
I mean, and so, I think one of the funnier elements of this to me, though, is watching the fight trickle down to the local level.
Yeah, which it has.
And, you had, Andy Biggs tweeted at, responded to an Elon tweet essentially saying, it would have been nice if you brought this stuff up earlier when we were trying to, make the bill. In his eyes, better, which meant hurt more people. He wanted the bill to hurt more Arizonans.
Yeah.
Right?
Eli Crane and David Schweiker both.
But Eli Crane gave an interview to CNN on the steps of the Capitol where it was like, hey, Elon, where were you 3 weeks ago when we were singing this already?
I think
Why
the
did you not join
context
the
of
choir?
that message, here I am defending Biggs. I'm not really trying to. But the context was
and these Democrats are all about defending Biggs, man. They all of a sudden are the biggest Biggs.
Dino.
I think his thing is Elon, we could have used you earlier. Why are you jumping in on this now? Right? Which is ridiculous. And then you have, his opponent in the primary campaign, Karen Taylor Robeson, who the consultants are writing tweets to be like, how dare you, Andy Biggs? How dare you do this? How dare you say something bad about Donald Trump? Don't look at any of the media interviews I gave where I was critical of Donald Trump. I'm only talking about this. And so it's just, for me as a Democrat, I think both of them are weak candidates. I've mentioned that before on your show. I love them fighting about this. I would love if she took some of her personal wealth and ran ads saying, hey, I actually do want to take health care away from 350,000 Arizonans. I want to increase all the things that this bill is going to do, but she won't do it. Everything that they're doing is performative, hoping that Donald Trump sees it and then decides I'm going to unendorse one of these two.
Look, if Karen Taylor Robeson's going to spend any of her personal money on ads about that, it's going to be in the DMV area where Donald Trump or Mar-a-Lago area or Bedminster area, New Jersey is going to be the beneficiary of those TV ads.
The strength of our democracy.
So, tie this in a bow for us. Is this just political theater? The equivalent of a political reality show, like the Real Housewives of the White House or whatever, something like that? Or does this have real world consequences?
Dennis, what turnip truck did you just fall off? Of course it is performative. Of course it's just theater. The next 3.5 years is just about theater. That's what it is.
I think there could be real world consequences to this, though, for sure, when it comes to just the breakup, and now you've got Elon threatening that what SpaceX is going to do, and you've got Steve Bannon going on NPR this morning,
calling for investigations.
He's I'm going to go on NPR. That's how you know, because he was jealous of the attention that Elon was getting from Donald Trump, saying let's deport this guy, let's use all of the what I would say are illegal measures of elimination of due process to punish this guy that helped fund getting Trump in the White House to do that stuff. And so I think there will be real world consequences here. And and not just the joy that I get from watching, MAGA people try so hard on social media to act like this is some sort of three-dimensional chess. This is a big secret. This is how they're going to get Democrats to say this and that. Try and, it's like, I'm a child of divorced parents. I've seen this kind of thing in my life. Like they're trying to make both
only
sides
right.
happy.
As I tweeted yesterday, and again, Tony, you and I, we could probably do a co-therapy session together. I too am a child of
not on this podcast. No, that is not going to happen on this podcast.
And I tweeted yesterday or X'd yesterday that it's the children that get hurt, and the children, of course, is the American public. When mommy
or
and
like
daddy
the hordes
fight.
of all these little like MAGA.
Yeah, so
I was going to say a word I'm not going to say.
It is.
Oh boy,
it is. It's. I don't know if there will be some real world. I mean, certainly Elon Musk is not going to spend hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah,
next
politically,
year.
I was going to say, I mean, does Musk spend the money he was promising in the midterms? That's a real world consequence.
That is a real and to that at this point, obviously, that seems pretty bleak. If you're a Republican who was hoping that Musk would come in and spend $10 million in your district or whatever, I would abandon that hope.
And I think what happens to this budget bill that's before the Senate, and whether or not this has an impact on whether or not the Republicans who are planning on killing this feel brave enough to do it. And then here's if I think that and I've been saying this for a long time, is that if Donald Trump runs into troubles in the Senate because of their procedural rules, here we are. That filibuster that everybody was saying that Democrats wanting to get rid of, and all, because the reason I've always wanted to get rid of the filibuster is because they're going to get rid of this. They're going to change if they don't eliminate the filibuster specifically. Letter of the law, get rid of it, do the nuclear option or whatever. They're going to find a way to get around this. And these are, and I think that that's going to happen. This is probably going to be the issue that pushes something like that over the edge if this gets hung up in the Senate. But we'll see, because you've got Republicans who agree with what Elon Musk is saying like, basically, we want to be able to cut more people out of Medicare. We want to be able to do more of this stuff. There are many of them, Freedom Caucus, these types, but do they have the nerve to stand up to the president?
No,
and they don't, because the legislative branch of our government has basically been isn't as important in this administration.
If I had to choose between $30 million being spent in my district by Elon Musk or the endorsement of the president of the United States, Donald Trump, I'd be choosing Donald Trump, because he actually connects with voters, and Elon's money is just money. I'd rather connect with the voters through Donald Trump.
So Colin and I were talking while this was going on in real time, and Colin brought up the fact that he thinks that the harshest thing that Musk said to Trump on social media was Musk taking credit for Trump's win in the White House.
Oh yeah, that
I mean, for a guy who's got an ego the size of Donald Trump, I mean, even his supporters got to admit the man's got an ego.
I mean, look at what happened where that one reporter asked a question about some people on Wall Street saying that he has a taco. Like the Trump always chickens out.
Horrible question. What a terrible question.
And it really set him off. And like when I saw that, I was like, oh great, now we're going to get even more tariffs, because he just needs to prove to people. But yeah.
So was Musk right? Could Donald Trump have won the White House without Musk's help? I mean, there's a lot of money that he dumped into that race.
There was. I don't know. I don't know if that is a knowable answer, because
of course it's not knowable. That's why it's fun. It's a fun topic now, Barrett.
Kamala Harris was a horrific candidate for the Democrats. Joe Biden was an albatross around their neck, and I don't know, minus the $300 million in Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin spending there, whether that would have moved the needle. Obviously it helped, but I don't know that Donald Trump wouldn't still have won because of how bad Harris and Biden were.
I think that Musk was a welcome distraction for the Trump people. Like, they liked the fact that Musk was getting so much attention, not from taking away attention from Trump, but because a lot of the anger and fire that was coming from people on the left were being focused on Elon and not on Donald Trump. So I think that there's some sort of shield that he provided. He was able to sort of generate a different type of attention. But when it comes down to it, it's hard to say. I think it definitely made a difference. I think that that's part of the reason why he was so grateful in having Elon around and all this kind of stuff. But, again, when you lose an election, and, and it was closer than it looked like on election night, there's a million reasons.
Yeah, and look, money is great to have. You can do a lot of things with it, but it's not the only thing. And, Elon Musk spent, I don't know, was it $100 million in Wisconsin,
yeah.
for a lousy, Supreme Court race and lost. Money isn't everything. It's nice to have, but it's not everything. Candidates matter. Mood matters.
Well, let's wrap with this. I mean, as the old song goes, breaking up is hard to do, but what about making up? I'm looking at a headline
Are
now.
you asking us if there will be makeup sex? Dennis, I can't with that.
I don't know if I can have him on this podcast.
I was going to say, do you know why you're not invited sometimes? Is this a thing you're aware of?
Well, look, if there's anyone who can make up, it's Donald Trump, because he is of such a transactional nature. You love me, I love you. You hate me, I hate you. What, you love me again? I love you. If you do for Donald Trump, he does for you. And that is his New York nature. And if there is anyone who can put aside that, Ted Cruz, the world is now littered with people who were angry with Trump, who said mean, nasty
many
things.
of them are in the administration. Many of them,
right. I mean,
many of them are. You've got Marco Rubio, who
and
Secretary of State, and running basically every.
Ted Cruz is the ultimate example.
Right.
He called Cruz's wife ugly,
right,
and accused his dad of being in cahoots to kill JFK.
And Ted Cruz
wild.
is and now they're besties, right? I mean, maybe he'll get a Supreme Court appointment, right? Right, they're just very close. And
But
so,
it's because these guys all sort of, they all. Just genuflected in front of Trump.
Okay, but they did,
And so
yes.
the question is, will Elon do that?
right, but they did. You're right. They genuflected, but that's just one. That's the only. They couldn't give him anything else.
Yeah.
Elon Musk has other things to give, so he may not have to do that particular, but it may cost him another couple $100 million.
Yeah, because I'm looking at a headline right now. We tape on Friday. I mean, Trump tells CNN he's, quote, not even thinking about Elon and won't speak to him for a while.
Yeah.
Do you think Trump's gonna, his buddy's gonna take him out? Take him out.
Maybe Elon needs to call Biggs to get the cell phone number that Biggs has.
I think any advice on a hard breakup is,
this is a breakup.
You remember, it's like, don't text them.
Right.
Don't text.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
for a while.
is Bannon taking him out to get drinks and be like, listen, it's.
He just never was that into you anyway.
It's his fault.
He was
It's not your
cheating
fault.
on you,
It's his fault. It's not your fault.
Like his other wives, he was cheating on you.
I did like that one of these women that Elon Musk was recently in the news because got her pregnant, and then there was a fight over money or whatever. She tweeted at the president, "If you need advice on breakups, hit me up."
Yeah,
I thought that was pretty funny.
That was great. Yeah, that was absolutely great.
It was a fun day for social media. I'll say one thing: there were a lot of people on the Democratic side that were like, "Don't get distracted by this." You know what? Listen, get distracted by this. It's okay. If you're a politician and you're listening, it's okay for there to be a little bit of enthusiasm on the left about it. It doesn't mean that we're forgetting what the bill does. Just calm down. Sorry.
Calm down. Get your popcorn. Enjoy the show.
I mean, even Chuck Schumer did tweet out "Bad Blood" or whatever, whatever Taylor Swift song or whoever song it was. But yeah, I think there were a lot of people who playfully had a good time with this, and in a sense, used social media for what it was really meant for, was to be sarcastic and funny. And so I think there was a lot of that on certainly the Democratic side, but even a little bit of the Republican side.
Yeah, people were having fun with it.
Yeah, people were having fun with it. And that's great. And I think it kind of goes to, it doesn't really matter that much, this breakup. Mm-hmm. It's a celebrity breakup. Did it matter in my life when J-Lo and Ben Affleck
I'm not over
broke
it.
up?
Yeah, it mattered. I'm not over it yet.
No, man. Well,
which
the
breakup?
first, right, that's right. The first breakup or the second breakup. And this is why in 6 months we might be back here talking about the same thing, because they got back together. They took a summer off, but then came October. They got back together. They tried to make it work again.
They ran into each other at a softball game,
right? Exactly.
At a bar,
and they rekindled their old feelings. They got back together, and then they woke up in the morning and went, that was a mistake.
Yeah,
we should not have done this. And then they go this, and so we may be back here 6 months from now. Probably the next time I get invited to the podcast, talking about the same thing.
Well, I mean, people do cancel, and so there's a chance that you'll get invited on again.
I've always wanted to be canceled.
We can make that happen. We can just grab some of those outtakes, you know.
Yeah, no doubt. You weren't recording that, were you?
For that cold open. All right, guys, we're going to have to wrap it up there, unless you have any other big thoughts about this big breakup and big fight.
No, but Spinato's coming now. Is that the big surprise?
No, it's not coming.
So can you at least get me a Pop-Tart from the upstairs cafeteria thing you guys got around here?
Look, man, I'll Venmo you some money. You can stop and get some pizza on the way to your...
Sweet.
As you go off into your big Playboy political consultant lifestyle today, you can grab yourself some pizza.
There's
on us.
no golf today. I want to be crystal clear with you. I am not playing golf today. All right, I'm working. I actually have to work. I took time, this is valuable time. Tony charges, a good, rate, $37.50 an hour, something like that. And, I mean, he's here giving his time. We're both giving our 45 minutes. I mean, you understand the amount of money that's sitting at this table?
$37.50.
Oh man, well, it's better. He's jealous. I mean, Barrett, I heard
I'm at 24,
15. No, I heard it was $15 an hour.
Dennis, I don't get out of bed unless it's $19.75 an hour.
Oh,
I won't lift a fee. I won't open a document unless I see.
I won't get out of. I wouldn't get out of bed if I had a bed. All right, guys. Thanks for stopping.
Have a great weekend.
Welcome back to the second half of the Politics Unplugged podcast. Colin Stanton, producer extraordinaire. Thanks for sticking around through that.
Always a pleasure.
I can't believe
they're fun.
it. Yeah, tardy. Barrett's tardy.
Yes.
Shows up late and wants pizza.
Yes.
And just won't stop talking about it.
No, if he's on the podcast, he complains he's not on the TV show, and he's on the TV show, he complains he hasn't been invited to the podcast lately. Always a joy.
Always a joy. And, Tony was right. I mean, people do cancel. So Barrett is a solid backup.
No. Yeah. Next no show we have, we'll be making that late call. Can you get on in here?
All right, man. Let's follow up a little bit on that conversation. What's your big takeaway from this big breakup in D.C. between the South African billionaire Elon Musk and Donald Trump?
It was just fun to have a day where you're looking at the headlines and just laughing all day.
Mm-hmm.
There have been a lot of like doom scroll days in the last few months. And this was like, it just kept getting better.
Yeah.
It started blowing up. And then we're like, Epstein files.
Yeah, that was, whoa. That was a moment where like everybody just paused and was like, what the hell happened?
Like, this just escalated.
Yeah, but I'm telling you though, man, I kind of agree with you, man. I think the thing that really got under Donald Trump's skin was when Musk took credit for his victory.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing that probably stung the most.
Yeah. The thing that is easy to forget in all this and all the entertainment value and these two guys, whacking each other with baseball bats is Musk has gotten such a role in the government now that like when Trump says, I'm going to take away your government contracts, that's like a really serious threat. The hit that Musk does a lot of our communication through Starlink now. Musk is our only way to get to the space station now.
There's a lot there, and there are real world, ramifications from this. I mean, like the stuff you talk about.
Oligarchy has a downside.
Because look, if Musk wants to fund a third party or not fund Republicans in the midterms, that's going to leave a mark.
It is. I did think it was funny that when he proposed that, he said there should be a third party for the 80 of us in the middle.
The 80% in the middle. 80% in the middle. Okay.
You're in the middle? South African billionaire Elon Musk? You're in the middle? I'm not sure the Sig Heil put you in the middle.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I lost $34 billion in one day, and it's not even a tenth of my personal wealth, puts you in the middle.
Yeah.
You're not in the middle.
No.
I'm curious how much of an impact that would have, because if you assume, and I think it's probably a semi-safe assumption, that if Musk creates a a political party that mostly carves out of the Republicans. I don't know how big it would be, but it doesn't have to be very big to have a very significant impact.
And look, say what you want about X, it's still a big social media platform, very influential, particularly in right-wing Republican politics.
Yeah.
And, you're going to take that on?
Yeah.
The newspapers back in the day had the power to, literally start wars. This talk was William Randolph Hearst said, if you want a war, I'll give it to you.
Yeah.
But the modern version of that is the social media platforms, and Twitter is kind of king about that. It has an outsized influence, and now you've made enemies for at least for now. They could be back together singing "Kumbaya" a week from now. We could be talking about
by the time this drops, they might be praising each
Yes.
other and selling Teslas on the front lawn again.
Again, even though Trump's trying to sell his Tesla,
which is nearly impossible from what I hear these days.
Yeah. It's not a great market.
No. It's watching that go down yesterday, and I mean, everyone knew this was going to happen in some form. Everyone knew that relationship wasn't going to last.
Mm-hmm.
I was predicting it wasn't going to make it to the inauguration. That at some point, the fact that people kept saying, "Well, it looks like Trump is the real president," or "It looks like Musk is the real president," would piss off Trump enough that he would shove him out the door before inauguration. Obviously, it lasted much longer than that. I didn't think it would go out like this.
Yeah,
this has been remarkable.
It's been remarkable, and the breakup, where do the kids want to go? I.e., where do the Republicans want to go? What sides are they taking? I mean, Tony and Barrett, they brought up, Biggs was complaining about some of the stuff that was in the bill after he had voted for it. I mean, does this create a significant rift amongst Republican politics? Again, real world consequences here. There are people going to start taking sides. As of right now, the latest I saw in reporting on Friday morning was the Republican caucus seemed to be still in the Senate, still seemed to be very unified behind the big beautiful bill.
Yeah,
but does that remain?
And it doesn't take very many people to defect to
no,
throw
they're
a
just
giant wrench into that.
Yeah, they have the slimmest of margins. You don't need too many to peel off, but what does this breakup do?
I have a hard time believing anyone's going to follow Musk. The Republicans are going to abandon Trump and follow Musk. Certainly, some of them might stand their ground and oppose the bill. Yeah. And the fact that people was it Biggs who said, "Gee, I wish you brought this up earlier."
Biggs, I believe, said something to that. No, it was Eli Crane.
Eli Crane.
Yeah, Eli Crane.
Is this stuff you didn't know? I mean, Is Musk's opposition that important to you?
Well, I mean, there's no reason to follow Musk because there's no evidence that following Musk will get you any benefits politically.
No, it might get you money down the line, but that's
if you're a Republican, you know that getting Trump's endorsement means everything, at least in Republican primaries.
Yeah.
So that's where that goes.
Yeah, that math seems simple. If you got to pick sides, if you're a Republican, you go with Trump.
Just remarkable, and it gave us really something to talk about because you know what, our lawmakers here ain't done shit.
No. Yeah, this has been much more fun than the empty room down at the legislature. One other thing that a few people have commented on with Musk is, so he says, "Oh, here's the big bomb. He's in the Epstein file, and that's why they won't release it." Like, assuming that's the case, which is, of course, a large assumption that Musk is telling the truth. But how long was he sitting on that? And how happy was he working with him, knowing that he was allegedly on this list of people who had sex with underage kids?
Yeah. I don't know.
I mean, it doesn't speak fairly highly of either of them if what he is saying is true. And again, that's a mammoth if.
And again, I think about it, like in my personal life, I mean, we've all had friends, couples that broke up and one or both are jilted and they're just, spilling the tea on the other. Like how much of that do you just toss out of them being bitter?
Yeah.
You can't put the genie back in the bottle after you make an allegation like that.
No, and I've seen people suggesting that this whole thing is a work or everything will be totally back to normal. I mean, he called him a pedophile.
Yeah, essentially.
And he lost $34 billion. I don't know that there's a whole lot of going back after that.
It's going to leave a mark.
I mean, yeah, you can say some nasty things, but you're in the file of the pederast. That's kind of a tough one to come back from.
with a record, dude.
8-year-olds, dude.
8-year-olds, dude.
Big Lebowski quote for those who don't know.
Yeah.
We're not alleging anything. Yeah. Although again, there's a certain sense that Trump was probably more angry about the "I got you elected" part than the "you're on the list of sex offenders" list.
What a time to be alive.
Yeah. It was a fun day.
I mean, it was a fun day of just news observing. I was working on a separate story, and it seemed like every 10, 15 minutes something new would drop. You just stop what you're doing. Like, really?
Yes. Watching the headlines scroll by, like, oh
Yeah.
that happened, huh?
All right.
Okay.
All right. Speaking about fun days, had a fun night about a week ago, or exactly a week ago from today. I had a little punk rock show with the old band. Put the old band back together.
Yeah.
You showed up.
Yes.
Thanks, man.
Absolutely. I wouldn't have missed that. That was great.
Packed
house.
This is your chance to make fun of me.
Yeah. No, it was terrific. Packed house at the Rebel Lounge. The Revenge of the Venomous Pinks.
Mm-hmm. Liar's Handshake and Overstand.
Yeah. Terrific show.
Yeah.
Nice showing from the station. We probably had like 20 people on there.
Maybe.
And our anchor team, we had Jared, Nicole, and Scene.
Yeah. It's great.
Vanessa, yeah.
It's a really good turnout. And I was really surprised. I was surprised people showed up. I really thought nobody would.
Yeah. No, it was packed. It was
like, oh man, I'm going to be totally embarrassed.
I mean, I believe I saw a certain Secretary of State in the back of the room.
He was there. He was there with his new wife.
A few of our regular guests from Politics Unplugged were there.
Yeah. It was, I got to say, like the last weekend, I got a little bit sad, overwhelmed with a little bit of nostalgia.
Yeah.
Melancholy. Yeah, because like I never know if that's going to be the last time or not. It used to be a big part of my life. I mean, I spent a long time being in bands and doing that for real. And I don't feel like I was a tourist. I wasn't playing in a shitty alt band while I was getting my finance degree at the local business school. You know, it wasn't like that. You know?
Yeah, no, you were doing the full on load into the Econoline and drive all over and play gigs and.
Yep.
Van breaks down and you figure out how to. It was the full story.
The full story. And now, like, it's pretty much. I mean, it's not like it's a big part of my life now. I mean, obviously not. But now it's like you play shows like that, and it feels like almost a final statement, like a punctuation to that. And I got a little sad thinking about that. I was like, oh man.
Yeah. So how quickly did it come back to you being on stage?
Oh God. I don't know. You tell me. I felt pretty natural. You know, it's like
Yeah, because there are a bunch of us who only really knew you as, political editor Dennis Welch, and we knew that you had
the
done
serious
this.
journalist that I am.
Yeah, but had never, seen you up on stage actually doing it, and it was fun.
Yeah.
And you looked like you were having a great time.
Yeah, and it's it's fun. I mean, I've done thousands of shows or whatever. Like I love being on stage.
Yeah.
But it's a little bit like. You hear, and not to compare myself to an athlete or something like that, but pro athletes talk about it's not playing the games, it's the preparation, why they retire. It's like they don't want to go through the training camp and the off-season workouts and all that other stuff. And it's just finding the time to practice, write songs, all that other stuff that gets involved being in a band. Like life just takes over. It didn't work out, the fact that, I was in a band, it didn't work out. It didn't pay the rent. Our former, we had a practice studio with 2 other bands in it, and for one of those bands, it worked out pretty well. Jimmy Eat World, didn't work out for us.
No,
not like that.
So you're not shopping for another van? No.
Or a record deal. Do bands still shop for record deals now?
I don't think they do. I think they're releasing themselves now.
Yeah, it's like it's a little more democratic that way. I kind of like it.
Yeah,
I kind of like it and I kind of don't because people can have really bad tastes.
Yeah, and it's just hard to survive that way.
Yeah,
I think it's probably sort of opened it up to more people because you don't have the sort of gatekeeper of the record label, but also it means you may not actually be able to eat. You know,
I know,
unless you're Taylor Swift and Chappell Roan and you hit that, I think a lot of the sort of middle class has probably disappeared.
Yeah, and it's pretty well known and established. Bands don't make money off records anymore.
No, not at all.
And and I guess if I was younger today, knowing what little I know about the current scene and whatnot, I'd probably put out 3-4 songs a quarter.
Yeah,
I wouldn't put out or 2 songs a quarter.
Yeah,
I wouldn't put out entire albums. I'd just put out 2 really great songs, record if I could, and just in tour when I could. That may be the way to go about doing that.
It's funny seeing how things like there's a Canadian band I like a lot called The Beaches, and they've got a new album coming out in a few months.
They're coming to town, aren't they?
They are. They're playing the Van Buren. Yeah, I may have to go see that.
Yeah.
They're terrific. But they have a new album coming out in a few months. But I think they've already released like 5 songs from it already. I mean, going back to last year. Weirdly, I found them because Bob Mould made a post online saying, "Hey, any of you who think that guitar rock is dead, listen to this." And it was a song by The Beaches, and that song is one of the songs on the album that's coming out later this year. So they've been doing it for months, and that's probably how it works now.
I think that's just the best way to kind of do it.
Yeah.
Instead of sitting down and recording a whole record and spending how much time that does, like just go, like write a couple songs, hit the studio, record it.
Yeah.
Release it. And if you want to bundle up something like an album or something like that, put it together and release it. If somebody wants something like physical, digital media or something like that, like do it that way.
Yeah.
But that's my advice. But just remember, I didn't make it, so I wouldn't take it.
There's that slight issue. Yeah. Here's what I wish I did.
Here's what I wish I did. I'll tell you what I wish I would have done back in the day was instead of touring around across country, we should have just played more in L.A.
Yeah.
And every record label was out there.
Yeah.
And what's it matter if you draw 500 people in Des Moines? Let's say you draw 5,000 people in Des Moines. It's more impressive to draw 100 people, 200 people in L.A.
Yeah. If you're getting attention in L.A., that's probably a big bonus.
Yeah,
and there's always been a big punk scene in L.A.
Yeah. And you grew up in Southern California. I can't tell you how kicking in the undercarriage it used to be. You'd go out to play your show in L.A. and you would get the weekly, New Times equivalent, all newspapers, see what other bands are playing, and every venue has somebody extremely famous playing.
Yes, yeah. Back in the heyday, in L.A., it would be that you'd get the Sunday calendar with the L.A. Times.
Yeah.
And they would have all the concert listings. And there were all kinds of clubs with bands like you've heard of playing there every night.
Like the club, a couple miles down the road. It's like, oh, Kool and the Gang's playing. Great.
Yes.
Not that we were competing with the same audiences, but it's just like you'd have just all these bands you've heard of. They're all playing tonight.
Yes.
The fact that, so to me, if you were able to draw a few hundred people in L.A., that was a lot more impressive than drawing a couple thousand in the Midwest.
Yeah, there were a hell of a lot of options.
Yeah.
I mean, just on the Strip, you had a whole lot of clubs there.
Yeah.
Drawing largely the same kind of audience. So to make a dent there, it's not going to be easy.
Yeah, no. Instead of spending, all that time on tour, probably should have just been going out there every weekend.
Yeah.
And just trying to build an audience that way. But, that's a long time ago, my friend.
Yeah. My favorite comment I've ever heard about that was a musician named Butch Walker, who used to be in a hair metal band called South Gang. And now he's solo and he's a big-time producer and stuff. But when he turned 18, he and his band left Atlanta to go to the Sunset Strip and try and make it as a metal band there. And everyone told him, we'll see you back in Atlanta in 6 months. There are a whole lot of bands out there. They're all trying to do it. So good luck, but there's no way to stand out in the crowd. And he said, we got there and they were right. There were a million bands that were there. But what no one else mentioned was we were actually really good and they weren't. So it's easier to stand out if you're really good and can get, the headlining gigs at Gazzari's or the Whiskey or wherever. within a couple months because people actually want to hear you versus all those other bands that are trying to make it where the guys can't actually play.
Yeah, I mean, in those LA crowds were just, they're so jaded.
Yeah.
And rough. And I mean, I never had a good show there for years. The only time I had a good show there where I got real audience reaction is I was playing with the Revenge, so I wasn't trying to make it as a musician by this point. And I was fed up with LA playing out there, and I just decided to go up there and insult the audience in between every song. And like I was on a roll. I can't remember what I was saying, but I was on a roll. I was doing some really I was channeling my Don Rickles,
Nice.
And doing really well. And like people just ate it up. We sold so many T-shirts, and like people wanted us to come back, and I'm like, why? I freaking hate LA. I hate playing out here. You guys suck. Oh, you guys. We're talking years, man, of pent up frustration with you folks, and now one night you're nice to me. You want to be friends. I don't think so.
And your regret is you didn't go there enough.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want it.
Yeah. It would have toughened me up a little bit more. I wouldn't have been I wouldn't have been so sensitive.
Yeah. Well, good. Yeah, it was a great show. Everyone from the station had a great time.
Yeah, thanks.
Really enjoyed it.
Yeah,
it was
great.
fun.
It was great. Are Suns fans gonna have a great time?
I think some of them had a rough week.
Yeah.
So for background, they finally hired the new coach. They announced the new coach. And they had, I think I saw a list of like 9 finalists that worked its way down to 2 finalists and then the final hire. So raise your hand if you were shocked that the final hire was the one who had Michigan State on his resume.
I'm raising my hand for the podcast audience.
Former Michigan State video coordinator, Jordan Ott, who, to be fair, has he was a key part of the staff for the Cleveland Cavaliers this year, and they were terrific this year. He was given a lot of credit for that. There are other teams who have interviewed him for the head coaching job. He was generally considered the less appealing, but less appealing of the 2 Cavs assistants who were interviewing here and there. The other being Johnny Bryant, who's apparently possibly a front runner for the next job. But Johnny Bryant doesn't have Michigan State on his resume, so
which helps with his honor.
Welcome, Jordan Ott. And then the day that the hire leaked, there was also a leak of a memo that Matt Ishbia sent to his basketball people with the Suns.
I think this is the part that was most concerning.
Apologizing for not setting the culture earlier, but assuring everyone that he's not going to be one of those owners who hires people who know what they're doing to run things. He's going to be one of those owners who does it his own way, which in this case will be running it himself largely. He'll be heavily involved in every choice the team makes. So everyone can rest assured, don't worry, he'll be very hands-on.
And what does that mean? I feel like, setting the culture change, right? And is the latest kind of phrase or buzzword in sports.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell does he mean? What kind of culture does he want?
And, whenever you hear culture in the NBA, the first thing that always comes up is Miami, because Miami makes a big deal about heat culture this, heat culture that. You got to fit the culture, which is cool. They didn't make the playoffs.
By the way,
heat culture works when you've got Jimmy Butler.
Talent. You mean culture works when you have talent?
Yeah, that's how. And so Jimmy no longer fit with the culture, so Jimmy got traded as he demanded. And
so Jimmy got traded, and the culture didn't.
And
make the
Jimmy
playoffs.
went deep in the playoffs, and the culture, got a head start on the beach because they're in Miami. They didn't do anything. Talent generally wins out over culture. Culture is great. I mean, people praise the culture, in San Antonio, which produced a number of champions, and they just got the number 2 pick overall because they were in the lottery again. And they keep getting their draftees keep winning Rookie of the Year, and it's because they keep drafting like number 1 or number 2 or number 3 because they've been terrible for years. They're going to be very good, but again, culture only gets you so far.
Yeah, I mean, past 2 years, people have raved about the Arizona Cardinals culture in football.
Yeah.
How many playoff wins did that got them?
Well, they might be over 500 this year. So culture is great, but culture ain't the issue. I mean, if you have a terrible, terrible culture, that's one thing.
Yeah.
And there have been allegations that that's sort of been the case, although that seems to be improving. The allegations seem to be a little older at this point. I'm not sure right now the culture within the Suns is a problem per se, but I'm not sure that that's the issue. I mean, the issues facing the Suns right now are they're facing an off season after a year where they missed the playoffs with the highest payroll in the league, which is bad. And when you're as far over the salary cap as they are, it becomes exponentially more expensive. It's not just that you have to pay those salaries; it's that you have to pay the luxury tax on those salaries. Mm-hmm. So instead of the $200 million, you might be paying $500 million or something. It's really expensive and becomes incredibly restrictive as you're over the apron. So what they need to do this year in this offseason is trade Kevin Durant, figure out what to do about Bradley Beal, but probably get him off the books. If you can trade him, great. You may not be able to trade him. Maybe you waive and stretch him. You do something. Mm-hmm. They need to remake the team, and a lot of that has to be you need to trade Kevin Durant, who is terrific here, and he's a great player. Mm-hmm. And, this is nothing against Durant, but that's their big chip because they're not going to trade Booker.
Get him while you still get value.
Yeah. And so they need to maximize the return they get for that great player, and the guy in charge of doing that has 11 months in an NBA front office, but did have several years at Michigan State.
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty confident about all this.
Like, maybe it works. Again, Jordan appeared to do a good job as an assistant in Cleveland. Maybe he'll be fine. Maybe the new GM is a savant that can step in and be brilliant despite never having worked in the league. And perhaps the guidance of Matt Ishbia, the fan with a mortgage business, will, he does know more than the people who've been working in the league for decades in making all this work. We'll have to see.
Should we leave on that positive note?
Sure.
Positive-ish note?
And I've been a pretty pro Ishbia guy. Yeah. He's made a lot of great choices. The fact that he put the Suns on over-the-air TV, I think, was a brilliant move. I went years without seeing them during the regular season because I didn't have Cox Cable. Yeah. And now I can see them, and I'm a big NBA guy. Yeah. So the fact that I couldn't see them was preposterous, and now I can. Yeah. That's great. He's made other moves around the arena here and there that I think were very positive.
There are straight business moves that I think he's been very savvy at.
Yes.
It's the sports moves.
Exactly. It's the basketball moves that have the fans, I think, fairly scared to death right now.
Yeah, and he wants. And good luck to him, man. I mean, I hope he is smarter than everybody else, and that he's the first one who can reinvent everything.
Yeah, no, if he's right about all this, that's great.
Yeah, I really, yeah.
Yeah.
Why don't we wrap up there, man?
Go Spartans.
Got to go the Phoenix Spartans. Yeah. Any plans this weekend?
Nothing big. You? Any gigs lined up?
No. I got not much lined up.
All right, that's good.
Yeah, it's gonna be the first, I think, pretty warm, hot weekend.
Yeah, 108, I think, Sunday.
Like that. Yeah. So I'm looking.
No thanks.
So I'm kind of looking. I'm a glutton for punishment. I'm kind of looking. There's a patio bar near my house with some nice misters.
Okay.
Might be kind of nice to go sit out there during the day and throw back a couple of high lifes.
This might be the weekend where my pool makes that delicate transition from too cold to too hot.
There you
There's
go.
like a 2-day window there. So maybe that's Sunday, Monday. We'll see.
I might be living the high life this weekend.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Enjoy that. Yeah.
It's like when the seasons changed from colder weather to hotter weather. I moved from the ales to the more lighter domestics. enjoy that.
Nice. Okay, so that's the seasonal change.
It's the seasonal change for me. Once you get to around 110, I'm like, okay, season change.
Yeah. We'll enjoy that.
All right, you enjoy the weekend, man. Again, thanks for coming out to the show, to the punk rock show last week. And
got my revenge poster framed, ready to go on the wall.
Oh, well, rad.
Yeah.
You know what? You got a revenge poster faster than Politics Unplugged got a poster.
That's true. That's true. It's going to go up right next to the Bob Mould poster on my wall in my office.
Nice. That poster was nice. You know, it's silk screened. It's nice.
No, it was a seriously nice poster.
Yeah.
I was pleased with it.
All right, everybody, have a great weekend.
See you next week.
Thanks for listening. You can subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, the Google Store, or anywhere else you get your podcasts. See you next time.